Thank you for joining me in this brief introduction to REDD+. As many of you probably already know, tropical forests are vast storehouses of biodiversity, home to millions of plant and animal species that are not only really cool, but they also provide tons of products and services that people need. Additionally, 1.6 billion people worldwide directly depend on tropical forests for their livelihood. Finally, forests provide valuable ecosystem services like rainfall regulation. Despite this vast wealth, tropical forests are being destroyed at alarming rates. 13 million hectares of forests are cut down every year. This has devastating impacts for biodiversity and ecosystem services, and negatively impacts those livelihoods of all the people that depend on forests. What you may not have known is that trees are made out of carbon, and when you cut down the trees to process them for wood products or clear the way for agricultural lands, that carbon is released into the atmosphere, directly contributing to climate change. In fact, tropical deforestation contributes up to 15% of annual greenhouse gas emissions worldwide. That's a significant amount. We can't tackle the climate problem without tackling the deforestation problem. This is a global issue, and countries have started to come together to seek a global solution. That solution is currently known as REDD+, or Reducing Emissions from Deforestation and Forest Degradation, or put more simply, protecting forests that are currently under threat. Plus, conservation, which in this context means protecting forests that are not currently under threat but may become threatened in the future. Sustainable management of forests, which in this context means improving logging practices. And enhancement of forest carbon stocks, which can mean planting new trees or restoring forests that have become degraded. All of these activities are encompassed in this small little acronym called REDD+. It's a powerful package. So how does it work? Developing countries like Brazil that have a lot of forests have historic rates of carbon emissions that have been measured over time. If Brazil can reduce those rates and measure its reductions and start to restore and replant forests, then there are certain developed countries that have committed money to help them achieve these REDD+ goals. Sounds simple enough, right? There may be two big questions that you're asking yourself. Where does this money really come from, and who is it really going to? Let's tackle that first question. Where is the money coming from? There are two main sources, public funding and carbon markets. One example of public funding is Norway. Norway has pledged $1 billion to help Brazil reduce its historic rates of deforestation. Brazil is using that money in an Amazon fund to help fund projects that can reduce deforestation within the Amazon. Carbon markets are a little more complicated. A carbon market for REDD would result if a developed country places a limit on the amount of carbon that it wants to emit. It reduces some of its emissions through activities at home, such as energy efficiency and renewable energy. It meets the rest of its goal by purchasing carbon credits from a developing country that has reduced emissions by reducing deforestation. Public funding, currently developed countries have pledged more than $5 billion for the next 3 or 4 years to help achieve REDD+ goals worldwide. It is currently unclear what role carbon markets might play in REDD going forward. REDD credits are allowed in the voluntary markets at this point, but there's no regulated market that allows REDD+ credits to enter into the market. However, this could play a potential huge role in the future if REDD+ are allowed into regulated carbon markets. So who's that money going to? Well, basically, the potential beneficiaries of REDD+ could be anybody that contributes to the goals of the REDD+ program. This could be governments that implement policies or regulations to improve practices. It could be ranchers and farmers that implement those improved practices. It could be indigenous communities and protected areas managers that start to better manage their territories to avoid the maybe illegal deforestation that's occurring in their lands. What types of benefits might exist from REDD? Well, what most people think about are payments for environmental services. This is usually a direct payment to a landowner for the amount of contribution that they made towards the program. However, there are many types of benefits that REDD+ could produce, such as policies and regulations that provide incentives to change practices, technical assistance to improve productive practices like improved ranching or reduced impact logging, financing for protected areas management, and even climate-friendly development like schools and education. And what's this money really going to go for? Is it to pay ranchers to sell the rest of their cows and loggers to put away their chainsaws and do nothing forever? No. REDD+ benefits are about creating sustainable economic opportunities for people to make a living that does not depend upon cutting down the forests. It's about creating a value for the standing forests so so that countries can continue to develop in a more sustainable fashion. This way, REDD+ credits, which are limited in time and scale and scope, can help actually create a transformation that will last for a much longer time. Okay, so that's been an introduction to REDD, and now it's time to test your knowledge. Get a pencil and a paper so you can jot down your answers. First question, what does REDD+ stand for? A. Restoring and enhancing deforested and degraded forests plus reducing climate change. B. Reducing emissions from deforestation and degradation and conservation, sustainable management of forests, and enhancement of forest carbon stocks. C. Really easy dimes and dollars for nature and people. D. None of the above. Take a second to jot your answer down. Next question. Who can benefit from REDD+? A. People who have been deforesting in the past. B. People who have always protected the forests. C. Governments. D. All of the above. Take a moment to jot your answer down. Last question. What are REDD+ benefits for? A. To pay people forever to never cut down the forest. B. To create sustainable livelihood opportunities so people can make a living without cutting down the forests. C. To place remaining tropical forests in protected areas and keep everyone out. Or D. None of the above. Okay, it's time to check your work and see how much you know about REDD+. I hope you got them all right, and I hope you feel like you have a better understanding of the concept of REDD+. It's a new and exciting idea that you'll be hearing a lot more about in the future. If you're eager to learn more, please check out the resources that are in my blog. Thanks for participating in this training.